Hey there, it's Tuesday, so that's Blended Family Tuesday. So today on Blended Family Tuesday, I want to talk about a word and a concept that I'm always spouting, shouting, and pushing here in our house and our blended family. And that concept, that word is community. And I had the unfortunate opportunity to participate in something in my early 20s that taught me a lot about community and what it meant to be accountable to ourselves and accountable to our community, and how much that helps us define positive behaviors for ourselves and a positive environment in terms of our community. And so a lot of times in like I said, I say the word all the time, and it's usually my go-to if somebody has an issue, like a complaint or a disagreement with something that they need to do, should do, or something else. And so my go-to is always, that this is a community and this is why we do the things that we do. I think that it's really been inherent in helping us move along in positive ways with each other, because it takes a lot of the emotion out of this situation that we tend to have when we think about everything in terms of big sister, big brother, little sister, little brother, things that attach us to roles and ranks within a household. Shifting things to a mindset of thinking about being a part of a community takes some of the emotion out of that situation and cuts out a lot of opportunity for drama, I'll say that. So 3 ways that I really see that I'm always pushing community and the concepts of community into the mindsets of our children and helping them foster those ideas are with these 3 things. So first of all, it has to do with like the house and our backyard, the pool, our environment, and how we keep our environment. And I can tell you, me personally, from all the years of being single, living alone a lot, I had to get over, even early on with the younger girls, get over a lot of things that I had to do with tidiness and neatness and keeping things clean and in order all the time. And I learned to embrace having toys in my space, in my area all the time, as a good thing. It was a blessing of having children and having little people around me that loved me. And so we still have pickup time, obviously, but I was able to let go of a lot of things that otherwise would have made it pretty hard for my children to just have a good childhood and be kids. Now, coming into an environment where we have, 4 children, if you will, and 2 adults all the time, my husband and I, and my mom, for a lot of the time in the house, you really have to pay a lot of attention to the environment, in my opinion. Now, the rest of them, they easily shirk everything that shoes, backpacks, anything that they were playing with, touching, creating, crafting, exactly where they were whenever that happened. But I'm always trying to impart upon them the reason why we have to be mindful of our environment is because of how it affects other people. And of course, it's always affecting me because it drives me crazy to see it. But and then the next level of that comes to cleaning and doing chores. So we don't look at chores based on, again, status, whether you're the youngest or the oldest or the middle. Everybody goes in and is capable of doing almost all the chores. The 6-year-old Can't really sweep and mop so well right now, but she does plenty of other things that she rocks at. Like, she really takes a lot of pride in cleaning bathroom counters and cleaning services like that. And so that's one of her #1 jobs. And I'm all about focusing on strengths instead of trying to push her to manage a broom and a mop and not really be that effective at it. Whereas the 9-year-old, the oldest daughter, she's getting pretty good at sweeping and doing a lot of that out here around the pool as a part of her community work. So we call it chores, but like I said, if there's ever a gripe or if it's a new thing that needs to be done, a task or some type of work, the answer is always, you're a part of this community. This is what this means to this community. This is why we need you to do this. And everybody gets it. And there's not really much that you can argue with, because I can always say back, well, do you not want things in your community when you're a grown-up to be this way, that way? And they can always see the positive side of being in favor of the community. The second way that we're always trying to foster a sense of community here within our blended family is with how we treat each other. And that comes across in multifaceted ways, just the same as the environment does. But I am like, if I'm very, very strict and have zero tolerance for something, it's being unkind. I really cannot stand that. It makes me upset in ways that would just really shock you, because things that I don't get upset about, you just wouldn't understand how upset I get about specifically our children, but all over the world. I can't stand people being unkind to each other, but in my house I have zero tolerance for it at all. And so it's well beyond treat them how you want to be treated. You are going to be kind to each other. There's a zero tolerance policy for that. Same way with certain words. Like in my house, the H word, which is H-A-T-E, is a bigger cuss word or bad word in my house than any other bad word that most people have a low tolerance for. You're not allowed to say that to each other. You're not allowed to say that about each other. You're not allowed to say that about food. There's a million other words that you can come up with, like don't like, dislike, don't care for, not fond of. That's one that the children say a lot, is I'm not fond of that that thing or that flavor or whatever that activity is. But everybody in this house knows better than to use the H word. So I think it's inherent for us in fostering elements of a community to keep everybody mindful of that. And another facet for that, for us in that, is that we've kind of got 3 levels of people going on in our community. We've got our young adult that is, you know, probably about 4 or 5 months into being 18. We've got a teenager, and then we've got the well, she's not even 9 yet, she's 8. So the 8-year-old and the 6-year-old, I don't know why I keep saying she's 9. So we've got the 2 elementary school girls. So everybody is kind of on their own unique dynamic level, from the little one kind of transitioning from the kinder stuff to the 8-year-old kind of transitioning into the early, maybe not really for her, but kind of the, you know, just a different stage where she has her imagination's different. She still loves to play and, you know, loves her stuffed animals, but she's starting to progress into some new stuff for herself. And then we've got the teenager, and then we've got, like I said, our young adult who's recently turned 18. And this has been a new concept for him to wrap his head around, because it's like the day he turned 18, things flipped for him here in this house. And a lot of that has to do with how he interacts with his brother, because what was acceptable maybe a month ago with how you guys wrestle and tussle about is not acceptable anymore, because now I've got an adult and I've got what is considered a child, in terms of those activities. And so we're consistently helping him reframe things and his words, his behaviors, and his actions around interacting with his siblings as more of an adult role model than just a big brother. And he's always been an awesome big brother with the girls, with his brother, but now it's shifting to getting to see that there's no reason to sit and argue with your brother for 15, 20, for however long, because you're never going to get to the root of it. The more adult approach in that situation is to tell him to go to his room and then come and explain it to us, or to tell him he's being inappropriate and drop it. That's the adult approach that he has to shift into. So we are very, very, we've got very, very, what would you say, like defined guidelines on how we treat each other. And that's, like I said, something that if I'm strict about anything, it's about how you treat each other and being aware of how your behavior affects other people. And that brings us to the third thing that, the third element, if you will, of how we are fostering a community here, and that has to do with your behavior and your attitude. Because to me, with as many people that are in this house and that are interacting in this environment, we've got a small margin for attitude. And really, to be honest with you, about the only person that really gets away with having an attitude for very long would be me. And I don't really get away with it that much anymore. It was more so when I had my job. And I talk about that a lot. And I want you to know that it wasn't just the job. It was the 1 hour commute there and an hour and a half to sometimes 2 hour commute back. That played an all-encompassing role in why I was always sour grapes. But as far as anybody else goes, you gotta get right on that pretty quick, because you're not gonna sulk around here. You're not gonna be catty. You're not gonna be sharp. You're not gonna be sassy. You're not gonna be like that to anybody else in this, because that stuff is infectious, and it's especially even infectious with me. I know that my behavior affects everybody here, and that's a big reason why I know that I had to shift out of the environment that I was in and shift into a space where I could get back to just being my happy self. And I'm glad that I did. But for anybody else, we don't do that. We don't sit around and stew in something, and we openly talk about it, and we don't, it's not a get right or hush up, or we talk about it. Either you're going to sit down and talk to me about it, or you're going to talk one-on-one with Dad about it, or we can all sit down and talk about it together. But I just feel like even with, like 2,500 square feet of space, we do not have room for anybody to be carrying around an attitude. And like I said, about the only person that it's tolerated from is me, and I am constantly making myself aware and mindful of how I behave and how it affects other people. And I don't have a problem with apologizing, and I do apologize a lot. I'm quick to apologize to any one of them and say, I was frustrated or this, and identify, not blame this, that, or another, but identify what was going on with me and why I was behaving that way, and apologize. And the children really appreciate that, because it's real easy for them to say, yeah, I know what that's like, and I remember when I was feeling that way. And so those are, like I said, 3 ways that I feel like we're always fostering a sense of community, which I think is a cornerstone that is really kind of begun to deteriorate in our society these days, is fostering a sense of community with our children and in our work environments and in our neighborhoods, because we have gotten away from understanding and identifying with the fact that everything that I do and everything that I say, and a lot of times even the things that I think about affect other people, and certainly my actions do. And you know, we can nitpick through every little thing that you could tell me that you could do or say that doesn't affect other people, and we can go round and round, and I can tell you, my children, we do it sometimes because I'm open to doing that and let them explore and see that no, you can get all the way down to the nitty-gritty of something, and I can show you how that affected somebody else in some way. And I really look forward to seeing that cornerstone in our society being fixed. And I know the number one way to do that is to make sure that the seeds that I've planted in my children and the ways that we nourish them as individuals and people is always fostering a sense of community in them, so that when they go out into their schools or in the volunteer situations that they're in, or in their jobs, that they are always mindful of the same things that we think about here, how they care for their environment, how they treat other people, and the behavior and the attitudes that they exhibit around the people that they're around. And I think they're pretty neat people, and I think that they're going to be awesome, and I'm sure that they're going to make mistakes, because they've got to. That's how they're going to learn. But I think by helping instill in them a cornerstone of community, then they're going to be little pioneers that help put together more grassroots community in this society and in this world that we live in. And I'm super excited about that. So I'd love to know about the different ways that you are fostering a sense of community in your family, because for us it has been, I believe, and even chatting with our oldest son Seth before I made this video, it's really been a huge part of what's helped us meld and mix together as a family, is taking away all the titles and the roles and just getting to the bare bones of it, that we all live here. We all are going to eat food here together. We all are going to clean up. We all are going to do this. We all have to coexist. Because once you get that, then it's not as easy to eat all of something, or leave everything this way, or be mean to everybody, or have a bad attitude. And that's what we need in this time, is to become aware of ourselves and how we affect others, and you know, look to ourselves to be positive citizens so we can have a positive community. And I just want to thank you, you know, so much for checking in with us each week. And I hope that something that we share with you about our blended family helps you in whatever type of family you've got going on. So have the best day ever, and